And this is a broader point about, what is happening in the entertainment industry. We're seeing these shifts, these ebbs and curves where CNN is doing so terrible that Warner Brothers Discovery is considering selling them off. Who would buy them? Who would pick them up? What would it be? Because no matter where it goes, it will always be CNN, HLN, right? Which used to be CNN too. And then, what about CNN International? The brand of CNN has become so charged. The brand of MSNBC has become so charged. The brand of Fox News has become so charged. And I think it's really interesting, apart from, what we're seeing, I think that we're going to have more of this. We're going to see more shifts in the media landscape. And at first, it'll just be friends buying their buddies' companies and downsizing them maybe. But I honestly think that the rise of independent media cannot be stopped. We've seen Megyn Kelly go off on her own with Devil May Care Media, which produces her podcast, The Megyn Kelly Show, which I enjoy a great deal. I love seeing Megyn Kelly be this independent person. We're seeing this with, Jeremy from The Quartering. He's launching thepublica.com. I think he's doing it with Sydney Watson. It's a good little, I don't mean little to be disparaging. I just mean it's a good little fish in a pond full of big fish. And that changing landscape is exactly what we need. We need to have more competition in the media landscape. It can't just be the big five anymore. We're going to need something to change how the news is reported because it's become so biased, and it opens up this big broad door where people can be fooled by the silliest of things. I remember growing up in the church world, there was the story that I heard this speaker tell one time, and it was about the original drummer of the Beatles, is what he said. And he tells the story about how after their first initial tour, how this drummer he left the Beatles, and when Ringo, or excuse me, before Ringo came along, right? So he left, and they tell the story that Lennon and Paul McCartney and George Harrison came to him and like begged him to come back, but his girlfriend like blocked the door and said, "Get away! He's got a good job. He's actually going places. He works at a factory now." And then right after that, they brought on Ringo, and they got their big record deal, and they became the Beatles, and Beatlemania happened. Only problem is that story isn't true. The original drummer of the Beatles. Let's see. I'm going to try to find his name real quick. Original drummer for the Beatles before. Okay, Pete Best was his name. Guy named Pete Best. So Pete Best, he didn't become a factory worker. He became a golden album winning record producer. It was a lie. It was just one of those internet rumors that this preacher man, who I don't think he was being malicious in telling this lie, I think he just heard it online, but he spread it to to make a point. Do you know how many of students like me who heard that guy say that rumor? When we found out the truth, how do you think that made us feel? Well, that's how the media works. It's a game of telephone. So they report on a story, and maybe they leave out a key detail. So it shifts where it is. Or maybe it's the way they present the story, right? It's how they tell it. And it gives a certain bias. We need to get, and by the way, there's nothing wrong with commentary. My vidcast, that's all it is. It's commentary. I don't break news. I just read it and then respond to it. And there's nothing wrong with that. I know I watch a gazillion other opinion-based YouTube channels and TV shows. Nothing wrong with that. The problem is if I was to come on and tell you a bit of news and then say that's not, but it was very opinionated. Like I would say, like if I was to say, I went for a walk and I saw a dog in the front yard with a leash. Okay, that is a factual shit statement. I did see a dog who was leashed up in his front yard. But then if I was to say, but the dog looked aggressive, maybe the dog was just like, but then I say he looked aggressive. Well, that's my opinion. That's not news, but that's how all of these major news networks report, and it creates distrust or mistrust in the viewers, the very viewers they're trying to relay the information to. And I just think that, like, for instance, we always hear about Australia's big, firearm buyback program. Well, do you know now that gun ownership in Australia is at the same levels that it was when the buyback program happened? So it wasn't successful. It's right back to where they started. And, Australia is basically a dictatorship now, along with France and Germany and New Zealand. And, you know, but the press doesn't report on all the things. Do you know how hard it was when the Australian government was sending out jackboots to beat up protesters during the lockdown? Do you know how hard it was to find that information? Because none of the major news networks, even internationally, were reporting it. Independent press was finding out what was going on. And I think we're going to get more back, we're going to get back to a place where we're going to start looking for more independent sources and maybe go to a place like CNN and Fox News to get like maybe a broader look at what is going on. But it's not just happening with comic book press or the movie press. It's happening with just the corporate press in general, and I do think it's time for a change. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you'll give it a thumbs up, that you'll leave me a comment, tell me what you think, that you'll share it out with your friends, and of course, consider subscribing to Studio Jake. I cover all kinds of nerd and pop culture topics, including film, television, anime, comic books, and so much more. I hope that you'll also head over to my main website, StudioJakeMedia.com, where I have even more news, views, and commentary. Also, if you'd like to support the channel, head over to my locals page. That's studiojakemedia.locals.com. It's the best way to support me. I'm trying to build a little community there. I have exclusive reviews and articles, so definitely head over there and check it out. And I'll see you next time right here on Studio Jake.